Dr. Ubong Essien. I'm the Vice President of Association of Resident Doctors, National Hospital Branch. Okay, suffice to say that it appears we have an increasing incidence of mental health, not just only in Nigeria but worldwide. And two school of thoughts. One school of thought believes is because people are becoming more aware of the symptoms, the signs and symptoms of mental illnesses, you know, and the fact that mental illnesses are medically treated, unlike in the past where in the archival period where people used to believe that mental illnesses were either spiritually related or were religious, related. But with the advent of awareness, people are more aware, about the signs and symptoms of mental illness. So it now appears as if the incidence of mental illness has actually increased. So that's one school of thought. The other school of thought also believes that because of increasing stress, increasing the increased use of psychoactive substance, people have also talked about, increase in the advent of COVID, you know, that it might be linked to the reason why we have a high incidence of mental illness. So these are all postulations. But as I said earlier on, these are some of the factors that we feel might be responsible for increase in terms of mental illnesses worldwide and not just Nigeria alone. So some of the points I had mentioned earlier, which I want to itemize again, is that one is that there's increased awareness. People are more aware that you see someone talking out of point, you see someone, dressed in an inappropriate manner, you see someone act, in an inappropriate behavior, you know, likely that person probably may have some form of mental illness. The other factor that may have also, caused this increase in incidence is that of socioeconomic impact. It is the last World Bank estimated that the number of poor people worldwide has quadrupled in the last decade. And studies have related the incidence of mental illness vis-a-vis shortages of food and poverty. The more people that you have that are poor, the higher the incidences of mental illness. Studies have also shown that we have more mentally deranged people among the low socioeconomic cadre. It means the more poor people that you have, the lower cadre of the people that you have, the more mental illness you're going to have, because people have different stamina of being able to, of psychologically withstanding mental illness. So the more poor people you have, the likelihood that you're going to have more mentally deranged people. On the other hand, also is availability of psychoactive substance. It is no news that is, if you want to access certain kind of psychoactive substance such as heroin, cocaine, is becoming more easier. We have more people now that indulge in the use of those psychoactive substances, and definitely we're going to have an increase in the number of mentally ill, mental illness, worldwide. The other thing is that of psychological stressors, being able to adapt to stressful conditions, both social stressors, emotional stresses. Just like what we did last year, where we had the lockdown, a lot of people had to be totally cut off from their economic means of survival. Had to be placed in a particular environment for a long time. These are things that can increase the incidences of mental illnesses. And we also feel that may have largely contributed, to the incidence of mental illness worldwide. The last is that of increase in comorbid conditions. There are certain medical conditions, that increases the incidence or the risk of coming down with a mental illness. One study showed that people who had COVID, either by virtue of the anxiety that developed by hearing the fact that they had COVID, Or we are also thinking, could it have been from the virus? Could it be that the COVID virus on its own can also, instigate a mental illness? Could it also be the treatment of COVID that can, that could have activated mental illness? So we've also noticed that since the COVID era, since the commencement of the onset of COVID era, we've also realized that a lot of people have come down with mental illness who had suffered from COVID. So these are some of the things we are thinking as clinicians that may have been responsible for the increase in mental illnesses worldwide, not just Nigeria, but worldwide. Well, as we have said earlier on, it's no news that the incidence of mental health has increased, and in order to be able to match, the number of patients that are coming down with mental illness, the only way we can do that is to also increase, professional, the amount of people that are trained, and those people are called the psychiatrists. So government should be able to, provide some form of stimulus for people to go into, specialization in psychiatry. We should have more people going into psychiatry. We should have more hospitals that are designated, psychiatry hospitals, so that we can be able to, manage the excesses in number of patients who are now coming down with mental illness. And beyond that, also, government should bring out laws that will reduce the ease with which people can access psychoactive substances. Government should also look at ways of ameliorating the economic downturn. The economy is tough. As I said earlier on, that socioeconomic indices has also been shown to correlate with the incidences of mental illness. So the more poor people you have, the likely you're going to have more people coming down with mental illness. So government should be able to see how they can provide more jobs, better jobs opportunity, better security. I forgot to mention that even the stress coming from security, the fact that you're having insecurity, someone has been kidnapped by bandits, also increases, that chance of coming down with mental illness. Post-traumatic stress disorder, if not handled well. So we should have a more secure environment, better job opportunities, more institutions that treat mental illness, more. It's not also news that some resident doctors are on strike. It's also an opportunity for government to see how they can, bring them back to work, so that we can have more people that are available to treat people who have mental illness. Treatments are basically two forms: biological treatment and the psychosocial treatment. The biological treatments are the ones which we offer in the hospital, but there's also a place of the psychosocial treatment where the psychologists play a role. Psychoanalysis, psychoeducation, where these patients are educated, because you need to find out where the problems are coming from. Is it truly a medical condition, in quote, or are they as a result of the psychology or the social, problems of that patient? And if you are able to identify where the problem comes from, you will be able to treat those patients. As I will also say again that doctors do not like going on strike. We have a duty to protect our patients. We are also humans. We can also fall ill one day, and we also require the services that we provide for people. But be that as it may, we found ourselves in this very difficult situation where remunerations of doctors, have not been paid. Certain allowances have not been paid. Some of our juniors, the house officers, had been withdrawn, a circular withdrawing them from scheme of service and other issues. So at the moment, we are still dialoguing, and we are hoping that government will be able to heed to our appeal, and we'll come back to work.